So here we are, you're next to my right shoulder now, and we'll see if that makes a difference to how well it comes across. There's my oblong of clay. First thing I'm going to do is put a little twist at the beginning, just this part here. And I'm going to do that by taking this corner, I'm going to push that corner there and wrap it over and try and get it to touch that point there. So I can't do it anything nearly as neat as actually doing that, but I can approximate it. So I'm going to try and get that corner there to touch that point there. So the way I do that is I lift it up with my left hand, and I take my right hand. So my right hand is going to do most of the pushing. And again, some people do it the other way around. They lift it up with their right hand, and they're going to push with their left hand and move that corner onto that point there. That's not what I'm going to do. As I say, maybe another time I'll try doing that. So this point onto here, approximately, and I'm going to do that by holding the clay like this. So I'm kind of cupping it at the top on this corner, the back corner here. I've got that point there where my thumb stops or starts, and I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to use this hand to support what's going on. Let's see if this is visible. So let's just try it. So turning, I'm going to twisting my hand. You can see my wrist is really under tension there, and then push down onto the surface. Now if I take my hand away, you can see, you get an idea of what I've done. There's the beginnings of a twist. You can see some tension lines here where the layers of clay have twisted, and I've taken that. Did I do what I said I was going to do? I think I have. There's the corner, and I've moved it to that point that I wanted. Okay, seems like an inauspicious beginning, but it's the start of something big. So the last movement I had was going down like that. So there's a lot of pressure on your wrist doing this. So you've got to be quite careful to have everything locked and aligned so you don't cause yourself any damage. We'll talk about that later. So I've got to that point there, and I've just holding the back here with this hand. Right, now what do I do? Well, I've got to do it again, but I've got nowhere to go. Where do I twist onto what? So I need to now take having done that, I'm going to lift I've now got another corner here. So that one came from around the back. I've moved it, if you like, 90 degrees to here, that corner. Now I want that corner to go onto a point around there. That's the idea. So it's a kind of repetition of what I've just done, moving that new point to that point. It's going to get harder and harder to do unless at the same time as doing, or just before I do that, I twist the whole piece of clay a little bit, like that. About 15 degrees. So from there, what's that, about 4 minutes or something to there. Right, and then it's much easier for me now to do exactly the same motion with me standing in the same place. So the clay's moved, but I haven't. I'm now going to take that point and put it onto try and get that to touch about there. So I'll try that now. So I'm holding it around the back with my right hand. Got the point where my thumb starts, and again I'm going to support it with my left hand, and I'm going to push down, twisting. Watch my wrist again. Twisting down and pushing down, twisting round and pushing down. So if I take my hand away again, it's not quite so obvious what's happened here, but you can see that the top part of this piece of clay has already started to be rotated that way, just very slightly, but we're already into the rotation of this clay. And so the first thing is to move that corner there, this quite sharp corner, to that point there, to try and make that corner touch that point there. That's the idea. So I lift it up with my left hand, grab it around the back with my right hand, so that point is where my thumb starts. I'm trying to reach this point here, so the only way I can do that is to twist the clay. I've got to twist the clay to get that point onto there, so here we go, let's do that twisting. I use this, if I just try to twist it with no support, the whole piece of clay moves. So that's what my left hand is for, is to stop that happening. It's to keep the base of the rectangle sticking on the surface. So I'm going to twist with my right hand, pushing down with my wrist and squashing it down a bit. Alright, let's put it back to where it was and lift my hand away. There we are, that worked. So there's the corner I was talking about. It's definitely rotated around a bit, roughly to where the point which I was trying to reach. And I'm going to do the same again now, but what's the next point to use? Well, it's that one. That's the point that's come round to the front, having just twisted the whole thing by 90 degrees. That's the new point. And where does that have to go? It has to go a little bit below where this one is, so about there. Same again really, just move that to the same place relative to it as we did with the first one. So move that point there to that point there. And again, it requires twisting. So now, if I did this without, if I carried on twisting without doing anything else, then my hands are going to get really in a bit of a state. So the easy way to get around that is to twist the whole piece of clay like this a little bit, so that point now is roughly in line with my right cheek. I would say between my nose and my right cheek. It's if I drew a vertical line downwards, that's where that point is, which is where the first point was before, and so I've had to twist the clay to get it there. But now I know. Now I can, and also I know it's in the right place because it's where my thumb starts. That's what I meant by that before. That point there is roughly where the point of the clay is. And again, I'm trying to move it from there down to about there. So let's do it. Holding it with the other hand again to stop the bottom moving. The bottom is moving, but it's rotating around, but it's not shifting. It's not slipping around on the surface. So lifting the whole thing up. Pushing down with my right, all the pressure comes from my right hand. The left hand is just to hold everything in place, stop it shifting. So that corner onto that point. There we are. You can see there's a very firm little shove at the end. That's needed. You need to be quite firm with this as you go around. And it's done it. It's getting a little bit more shapeless at the moment. But it did do the trick. It moved that point from there to about there. Okay, so now the next point. Well, we're running out of points because I've been squashing it so much, it's getting a bit rounded up here now, but we can still imagine where that next point will be. Let's lift the whole thing up again. It's that point there. That's the one that's come to the front. And now I want to move that down to there. So I'm lifting it up. And again, a little twist of the whole piece of clay will make it much easier for me to do this, so that that point is where my thumb starts. It's in line with my nose or cheek somehow, and I'm just going to do exactly the same movement again, holding it with my left hand to support it, and just another twist downwards like that. There we are. So that top really is getting quite twisted now. We've done 2 or 3 twists, and you can start to see the tension in the piece of clay. Right, so we're at that point now. Now let's do it again. Lift it up again and rotate it round a little bit. The whole thing round a little bit. And now it's that point. There's the point that's come to the front. That's got to go down to about there. So here we go. Support it with my left hand and squeeze and push down like that. It's really strange doing this so slowly, I have to say. Again, it's getting more and more shapeless for now, but you can just start to see the hint of these little ribs or these shell-like structures appearing in this part. This part hasn't been touched yet, so that's the bottom of the clay, which is still pristine. It's still really like the original rectangular block it started with. It's starting to spread out a bit, but I haven't really done anything with it yet. But what has happened to it is it's rotated around. So it was like that. There's the bottom, and it was lined up like that, if you remember. But no longer, because I'm twisting the top and twisting the whole piece of clay around. That's moved round to about there, like that now. It's gone from there all the way around, and it's going to go round and round and round. Let's do it again. I pull this up and twist it a little bit. There's the top part of the cone. I want to move that down to about there. Get that point to touch there. It's in line with there's my start of my thumb, holding with my left hand, pushing down quite firmly And now it's done it again. So now the top is nearly has nearly met the bottom. They're both, what was a rectangle has been twisted up into a, how can I do this? Well, you can see there it is. It was a rectangle and the two ends have come together. And the top is nearly, sorry, what was the bottom down here is nearly back up to the top and is about to be kneaded by my right hand. Not quite there yet. Let's do it again. Lift it up, twist it round slightly, and there's the point we're trying to move. We're trying to move that onto. It's always just where the square would be. So about there, just 45 degrees down. Trying to meet that point has to meet that point. That's all we're ever trying to do. So let's try it again. Supporting with the left hand. Squash. It's getting a bit more awkward at this point because as the bottom, which is spreading out, I call it the bottom, but it's now the top. This bottom part here, which has come all the way around, is now meeting the cone here. I'll explain the cone in a bit more detail in a minute. And it's all getting, they're coagulating, and this is the most awkward point of the whole thing. I mean, it looks like nothing right now. You might say, what on earth would you want to do this for? It's not having any effect to the clay except to just make an ugly shape. But stick with it. Okay, we lift it up again, twist it a little bit. I'm having to shift it a bit because I'm doing all this so slowly, but as you'll see in a minute, it's all done in one place. Now it's getting quite not very clear where the point is which point I'm trying to move to which other point, but it's wherever your thumb begins. So for me it's about there now. That point there has to meet that point there. Just the diagonal line below it, about there. Let's do it. There we go. And you really can start to see these sections, these segments. And I've almost got the whole thing. I've almost gone round all the way round, but not quite. I'm going to do it a few times now, the same thing again and again. So again, ignore the fact that it's quite ugly and you don't know, it's very hard to tell which bit is where anymore. But just be guided by what your thumb's doing, where your thumb is. And whatever the point is at the bottom of your thumb, just there, that's the point you're trying to move to the point diagonally below it, or diagonally closer to you, which is there for me. Let's do it. And again. So I'll start to show you the rhythm of doing this. The rhythm of doing it is pushing down, supporting with my left hand, lifting it up, and as I lift it up, twist it a bit. There's the new point. Move my hand around, this hand, move it round to the back. Take that point and move it down to there. And again. And if you keep on doing this, just practice that, which point has to move to which other point. After a while, something rather wonderful happens. So I'm only ever doing the same thing again and again and again and again. And the wonderful thing that happens is you start to get quite a natural looking, beautiful shape with, looks like a shell of some sort. It's got the spiral here. This is the cone I'm talking about, this bit here, the bit which my hand is flattening out. Here's the tail, let's call it. There's all the segments in the tail. And looking on the other side, it's all very flat because it's just being pressed onto the bat. But it's a very complex, quite intriguing shape that I think mathematicians would be very interested in studying. It's all done by a rhythmic repetition of a single small movement, but it's quite a sophisticated movement. Again, that point there, down to that point there. That's all I'm ever doing. Let me try it with one hand and see if that makes it, if it's any clearer. It might not be. It's harder with one hand because it's starting to move around a bit. The clay's moving around. That's the whole point of the left hand, is to keep it all in one place. It's also more, the cone is starting to distort as well, so I'm going to keep with my left hand. Let's go around again a couple of times. So this is the rhythm this is the speed at which I would do for 3 kilos. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And don't start at that speed. Take your time. Take a long time to get up to that rhythm and that speed, because you've got to think about quite a lot of things all at once. The most important thing to think about is your body's health. There's lots of scope for injury here. First thing is, the surface on which I'm working is quite low. It's a relatively low table. If I just stand next to it like this, on this side, stand next to it like this, and put my hand down on it, if I do that with my hand, where my knuckles are touching the surface, like that. So it's quite a lot lower than a desk would be, which is about maybe there. You can't see, can you? There's maybe another 4 or 5 inches above this is where a normal desk height would be. So it's got to be lower than that. And the reason is you're going to be using your body to do a lot of the work. I think I need to change the position now to show you what that's all about. The idea, as I say, is not to use your wrists, not to use your shoulders or your arms even. So it's not this. You're not rowing a boat. You're going to use your core muscles here, and your shoulder is going to just drop down onto the piece of clay. And that pressure I put on every turn comes from not pushing with my hands so much as by dropping my shoulders down onto it. So what I mean by that is, here we go, let's try and do it in an ideal way, because I've got lots of bad habits, and I do it wrongly, I know, but ideally it's something like this. Pushing down, straight back, letting the body drop onto the clay. So I'm not using my arms or shoulders to push. I'm not doing this. I can't even do it. I'm not doing this. I do that when I've got a small piece of clay, because it's so small, so light, nothing. You're not going to do yourself any harm. But the bigger the piece of clay, 3, 4, 5, 6, up to 10 kilos, the more of your body you use, the easier it will be, the less energy you'll use, and the safer it'll be as well, because you're using all the strong muscles in your body. So it's like this. And you can tell you're doing it well or healthily if if this arm that's doing the pushing, which for me is my right arm, stays more or less locked, certainly locked when it's pushing down. So you can bend it a bit as you come up, but when you do the pushing, then you're pushing from your shoulder is pushing down, and that's being driven by your core muscles and gravity. Yes, you're sort of using the pull of gravity to just turn around so you can see that arm. So it's rigid. So this is the kind of motion I would naturally do. It'd be like this. It's a bit of an uneven floor here. I don't think it's an uneven wedging table. So you see, I do move my shoulders when I go upwards. Sorry, my elbows when I go upwards. But whenever I come down onto the clay, it's a rigid rod that isn't going to harm any of my joints. Okay, I hope that's clear. So the next thing to look at is let's look at what's going on inside the clay. Well, no. Let's see how it works. That'd be a good idea, wouldn't it? Let's find out what the point of all this is.